everybody, I'm Addie and I'm here with Dennis today. We are going to kick off with talking about the Blanton Botanical Garden. So Dennis here is the manager of the home place team, and what we're going to be looking at is basically courtesy of Mr. Blanton and an add-on of the home place team. So a little bit about Buffalo Trace Distillery. We are the oldest continuously operating distillery. We got started here in the late 1700s. Albert Blanton joined in the late 1800s. He was 16 when he started working here, and he stayed working on property for about 55 years, and in 1921 he became our president. During his presidency, he kept us open during Prohibition, the Great Depression, World War I, and World War II. During his time here, he doubled basically whiskey production here at the distillery, and he softened it up with his beautiful garden. So what we're standing in front of right now is his residential house known as Stony Point Mansion, built in the 1930s. This is where him and his wife lived, and fun fact, this is where he died. So Blanton's still here on property somewhere. But to kind of get things started, this is a reservation-based tour, so if you are interested in coming and exploring our grounds, email us at reservations@Buffalo Trace Distillery. It would be an hour-long tour with a 15-minute tasting at the end. Space is limited with a capacity of 10 people.
Great. Thank you,
Dennis,
Addie.
are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
Okay, so to continue on what Addie already told you, we are standing, behind me is the Albert Blanton residence, built in 1933 by Albert Blanton. Arts and crafts style home, and lucky to say that's where my office is housed. A lot of the marketing team is offices are housed there in this beautiful building. As you can see, a lot of stone architecture. We are standing up at Stony Point is the area we are in, and the Albert Blanton Botanical Garden and Bird Sanctuary surrounds the estate. So really quickly here, as we tour the garden a little bit, the home place team has been really busy. We've been planting annuals currently, and we're in the process of adding more perennials to the gardens. This garden we are in right now was refurbished in 2010, and it was pretty much based on a lot of the stone structure that Albert Blanton put in place back into probably the 1930s, shortly after the house was built. So to honor the history here, we kept all the stone walls. We repaired a lot as it became in disrepair over the ages. And what we did is we redesigned the gardens and added new plant structure to the gardens to soften them and bring them back to life.
Yeah, I was noticing like some of these stones are they really look like the house. So there's a lot of like different stonework, and you can tell like some of the spots that may have been here for a long time, but you can also tell where you've improved it as well.
Yeah, we do try to keep everything. We do try to keep everything in the gardens as it was before. So in order to do that, we definitely repurpose a lot of the stone that we find, but where we find we can just repair the structure itself, we do so. So yeah, the walkway you see around here was all pavers added by us in 2010, and some of the stone stairs were added. So you do have a mix of the new and the old within the gardens. Not unlike what Buffalo Trace, what our really theme is here is, honor history, embrace change. So the change came in 2010 to bring these back to life, and so we added these new features to the existing.
Yeah, I'm just so curious, like what it could have looked like when Albert was living here, and so when you started on the project, was it strictly just stonework that was left, and then you breathed new life into it, or was there some plants still left from his days?
Well, that's a good question. So for the most part, the plants that you see around you down in this section of the gardens, which we call phase 1, were our new plants. But as you can see, if you pan over to the house, a lot of those plants, at least were here in 2010 when I got here, and probably a long time before that. Whether they were planted by Albert Blanton, not quite sure. Don't have the documentation to prove that, but a lot of them, such as the holly on the corner of the house, which is so large that I would assume that's been here for quite some time, and possibly the 1930s.
Okay, so and you've already covered this, I'm sure, but 1930s, 33, you said the house started, and these gardens probably started soon after or during the same time.
Yeah, I would say they started pretty soon after. Albert Blanton was known as a gardener. His love, we're told, for plants was he loved roses and mums. So when we started the garden, right here is a good example. Some of the shrub roses that we used when we started these gardens in 2010. We wanted to honor the history of Albert and incorporate some of the roses in here. But that being said, roses and mums aren't that interesting, so we added a lot more flavor to the gardens with all the plants you see around you.
Well, I'm noticing too, and hopefully we'll get into this a little more as we go, but you do have plants or little signs for every plant, so assuming that's part of the tour, what people are going to get to see? Yeah,
so, besides the tours on Fridays, we are open to the public. Of course, there's a COVID protocol still in place, but people are free to walk the gardens once you go through the proper protocol for COVID and within the proper hours, but you're free to walk the grounds. We don't charge for it, and we get quite a bit of activity up here with just the locals and visitors coming up here just to see the grounds and take pictures, prom pictures, etc. is pretty popular here.
What's the recommendation if you do want to come up and take pictures? Is that something you have to check in to take pictures, or is that?
Correct. You check in with the visitor center, and then you go through the temperature checks, and you get a wristband or sticker, and that normal process.
Okay. Just want to make sure people are still going through that protocol. And
you mentioned the signs. So the signs, we are currently putting out new signs. Our first run of signs back in 2010, we probably chose the wrong kind, so we're replacing some more robust signs that will stay in place longer. So we're in the process of putting those signs out right now, and should have pretty much everything with signs in about 1 to 2 weeks. We should have everything labeled here.
Nice. And just to give people an idea of where Stony Point is on the property, this green fence that you can barely see, but this is the entrance. I'm trying to think how to explain it. BP is just down here, but when I'm looking at the property, you can start to see the distillery through the trees. Do you just go down to the gift shop and ask them where it is? Is that the best way?
Yeah. So check in, like Addie had said. Just call them or email, and they will set you up with instructions.
Okay.
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
All right. Let's check out the rest of the grounds.
Okay. So this phase 1, like I said, was done in 2010. We'll walk towards where we started shortly after in 2011 and 12, phase 2 of the gardens. Okay. We have, as you can see, this is a great time of year to visit. You've got, you probably just panned over the rhododendron in front of the house.
Those
blooming.
Are pretty large. I mean, those are pretty large ones.
Those are very established and happy rhododendrons. So they're a very tricky plant to get to that happy spot. The soil's got to be right, the location's got to be right, and those ones are really nice there.
Yeah, you can really see the house. You can see the house a little better on this side, just all the stonework, and he had a pretty nice pad.
Yeah, and the stonework around the house as well. The area we're coming to, you could see he might have used as a fruit cellar back in the days. This structure right here by the garage. The trellis over the garage was put in by us, but the stone foundation was in place. So we're thinking that possibly, he had a greenhouse there, and maybe over the years it disappeared, the glass part. So a lot of what we're told is that was the case, and over there, this here, part of the cellars, just makes sense to store vegetables and fruits in there.
Very cool. What's this sort of stair-step effect going on here, coming down there, Dennis?
So one of the things we inherited here when we started the gardens is we found these old concrete foundations. So what we think is, Colonel Blanton, being a gardener, probably had some cold frames or something here. So over the years, we've used them to test trial annual plantings. And now we're starting to put some new or different plants in. Some of these small plants in the planters right now came from the National Arboretum in Washington, D.C. So yeah, we had a bunch of plants sent to us from the National Arboretum, and they're plants you typically won't find here. So we're going to fill these areas with some unique and different plants that will grow in this environment.
Very cool. And I see, the new signs popping in. So
yeah.
If you're doing a self-guided tour, you get a little education as well.
Yeah, you'll get hopefully a lot of education. So one of the things we're doing is we are in the process of trying to achieve a level 2 arboretum status here at Buffalo Trace. So in order to do that, we have to catalog all our plants, which we're in the process of doing. Currently over 2,500 plants have been cataloged.
Wow.
We have over 500 species, and we're getting close to done, but there's a lot more to go.
Yeah, I was curious, what's it take to be an arboretum? Is it a plant count, or is it historical significance? What's like the big hurdle to get over? Because to me, it seems like we're an arboretum, right?
Right. Well, we have to have a written plan for the arboretum. So our master plan. We have to do some public outreach, educational programs, which we plan on doing. As a matter of fact, this oaks, we handed out tulip bulbs to the public, which was really successful. So all the tulips we planted in the fall that bloomed and looked great this spring, instead of tossing them, we handed them out to the public at Oaks. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, it turned out really good. So there's more to come on that.
What are we looking at here as far as plants? Because you got some that are blooming, some are...
Those are peonies. So peonies are popping this time of year. That one, the yellow one that's really vibrant, is Bartzella. It's a really popular one. It's so big, the bloom on it, and bright yellow. But we have probably a dozen or so different peonies here to look at Buffalo Trace.
Great. And one thing I've noticed, because we did an episode with you around this time last year, it may have been, we were a little earlier this year, but there's different plants, there's different blooms. Is that something that's just a seasonal thing, or are you guys doing even more expansion since last time we did this last year?
Well, we are constantly adding. So as any garden, we're continuously in flux. So, the things die, things grow, get overgrown. So garden is ever evolving, and, in that vein, we are adding some new interesting varieties. I've reached out to several, nurseries nationwide to find different cultivars that you might not see elsewhere here in Kentucky. So we're in the process of adding some new things. Like I said, the Arboretum, National Arboretum in Washington, D.C. has sent some things. So we have a lot going on here, and yeah, you will always find new plants being introduced here at Buffalo Trace, spring and fall typically.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this is always one of my favorite spots to walk through in the garden, not just because of all the plants and all the blooms, but these buildings behind you. I'm a sucker for older log structures like this. So.
Oh yeah, these are original to Blanton. The building to the left there, that is we're currently using as garden shed, and we believe it was built as a garden shed. So the team uses it, and it comes in really handy. The log cabin building is a smokehouse used by Blanton. He was an avid cook and chef, so he would smoke his meats in there. And currently, we have not repurposed that building yet. We have restored it. So we are still planning on doing something special with that building at some point in time.
Yeah, I have to get one of those, Dennis. A nice house to smoke all the meats in. Sounds great. Hey, I just want to chime in too. There's folks from the UK that are listening and watching. North Carolina. There's quite a few. So we've got a lot of great engagement from all over. So
that's great. We get a lot of visitors here at Buffalo Trace from all over the United States and all over the world. So it's really, really nice to have that engagement from people, and as well as the local community as well. We get a lot of local community engagement here too.
Great. Let's keep strolling. This is, you know, I think the timing of this is really great. There's a lot of blooms, a lot of things are really full. Is there a recommendation on timing on coming, or is this a real great time?
Late spring is a beautiful time of year, you know, so the garden evolves, so we have several seasons of interest, so, you know, a good garden is going to give you that. Many layers of interest throughout the growing year, so this time, you know, everything seems to be popping. It's, you know, late spring. What you're looking at is Amsonia, the blue flower there, and behind it, the autumn sunset climbing rose. To the right, viburnum, Michael Dodge viburnum in full bloom. Now that Michael Dodge viburnum is a great example of seasons of interest because that particular plant will get a bright yellow berry on it, which is really interesting in the fall.
And we're talking about the one just right of the path with the flatter,
Yep.
Okay.
You know, we just passed the Weigela. We have several different cultivars of Weigela here. You know, in front of you, you got the hibiscus, which will be blooming here in later summer. So we have many layers of interest here in the gardens at Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, so any time of year after late spring, new things are going to be blooming, new things are going to be popping off. Got it.
Yep. And coming up here, I did want to mention to people that we have over 120 varieties of daylilies, so really unique and special daylilies. So come June, this will be a great time to come and visit the gardens. You'll see some really unique and cool hybrids of daylilies. So, you know, that's upcoming. And of course, you know, we're planning new introductions now for upcoming blooms, so a lot going on.
Can you touch on, I remember you telling us about the daylilies last time, that some are actually varieties that you've had a hand in and other people, so what's so special about some of those that we have here at the Buffalo Trace?
Well, we a lot of our daylilies come from David Kirchhoff, who's a local Kentucky hybridizer of daylilies. So David is nice enough to let me name one of the daylilies that he hybridized, and that one's called Buffalo Trace Bourbon. So that one's very special, and a lot of his daylilies are showcased here. You know, like I said, there's so many, and you'll find every range of color and texture and look of daylily that you can imagine.
That's great. And just remind us again, that is it June, early June, late June?
Yeah, so, you know, I would say in a couple weeks. So, you know, early June, we should be starting to see them popping open.
Okay, great. And we had a question, I don't know if you know this answer, Dennis, but about the cicadas. So an insect that we know is is supposed to arrive this time of year. Have you started seeing the cicadas around here? I
have not personally, no, but we hear that will be an issue this year.
Okay, yeah, we just had a question on Facebook about cicadas.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see some folks, some of my friends in Louisville is getting a few, so they must be on their way.
Yeah.
But great.
That's the word.
Yep. All right. So that actually reminds me of a question. What are some of the hurdles, the natural hurdles of upkeep of a garden like this? Is it just weather that you have to worry about, or is it insects and other things?
Well, that's a great question. If we walk over here and kind of point out.
Okay.
Something and answer that question really well.
I'm going to spend just a second on the house here, the little smokehouse. Yep, got to get one of those. That's cool. Yep. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he sure did. He was doing some things right, I'd say.
Yeah.
So this area right here in front of you, this is an area that is still in transition. So you're talking about some of the hurdles. So right around where that weeping tree is, in that middle bed right there was a giant white oak that shaded this whole area. So a couple years ago, that oak died suddenly. So what we were left with was a shade garden that all of a sudden became a full sun garden. So a lot of movement of plants. We had to refigure the area. You know, some of the plants could stay. We have some little bit of filtered light with the trees behind us. So that's just, you know, that's what a garden's all about. It's ever changing, ever evolving. So that's, you know, one of the issues you come with is just Mother Nature doing her thing. And the same thing with insects. Being proactive with insects is the best way to control them. But
Gotcha.
we have a team here, a pretty good team. We have 36 people on the home place team that take care of the grounds and buildings here. So it's a really good team that stays engaged, especially up here in the gardens all times.
Yeah, every time I'm here, which is pretty often, there's a lot of people working really hard on keeping these grounds looking the way they do.
They put in a lot of hours, you know, and you could see the fruits of the labor right here. Yeah.
And you know, I didn't realize the oak tree, the white oak you're talking about, but I have always noticed that this section looked a little different. So now I know why. So it was all shaded forever, and now you have to transition into something completely different. So, and that's the whole, you got to embrace change, right? So
exactly. So really fits in well with who we are here at Buffalo Trace, and you know, and right in front of us is more of the, you know, honoring the history. We left all the concrete foundations he had here, and these are typically annual feature areas, about to become a perennial feature area. This is a nice little spot for people to take pictures. The pergola is really popular for that. So you know, it's ever evolving, and it's one of the things that keeps us on our toes around here is all the change that happens.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, thanks so much for the tour. One thing I have noticed when you drive up here, you can't really see it from here, but there's a lot of large stones and large rocks. Are most of those from the grounds, or are those things we brought in? Or
yeah, I'm pretty known to keep all the rocks that we found around here. So Warehouse X, which is right down the hill here on the Stony Point Hill, that warehouse, when we dug the foundation from it, we found a lot of big boulders. So we repurposed those boulders and put them and made a nice retaining wall as you come up the driveway, serve the purpose of holding back the steep slope that was on the corner of the driveway.
Yeah, I've totally noticed, and I've really noticed a lot of work you're doing down by the playground as well, with stones and things. It's looking really great.
Yeah, we added a new playground right before COVID, so we saw it kind of empty for a while, but nice playground area. It's full of natural landscapes, a lot of different ground covers in there. Just a nice peaceful place for people to come, and people have been utilizing that as well.
And so obviously there's the part of the walking tour and self-guided tour is down by the Elmer T. Lee Clubhouse. I know there's a whole nother garden back there with bridges and a water feature and things like that. Is that also something that you just check in, let them know where you're headed, and you can just do a self-guided tour?
Yeah, the same thing with the clubhouse. All the grounds are open to the public. You know, you just got to follow the correct protocol.
Okay.
But yeah, the clubhouse grounds are beautiful. There's several weddings on the clubhouse ground every year. Very picturesque, a great place to take senior pictures and photos. And it too is an evolving area, and we're adding more interest to that area as well.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dennis and
You're
Addie.
welcome.
You're still around here, so just want to thank you both. And let's see if we can get you both in there. Any last words? Any closing statements? Or Addie, you want to let us know how to get on this tour?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is the Blanton Botanical Garden tour. It happens every Friday starting at 1:30. If you want to come here and explore with Dennis, just email reservations@buffalotrace.com. And kind of like I said at the beginning, we do have a capacity. It is 10 people per any experience. And if you come and you just want to explore yourself, just make sure that you come through our free house, get your temperature checked, check in at the visitor center, and get a wristband, and then you're more than welcome to check out any of that garden area. But yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, great. Thank you both. And it's always a pleasure to walk these gardens with you, Dennis. I know your team is working really hard, and there's quite a few, like you said. So thank you again, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right, thank you.
Bye,
Right.
guys.
Bye.